Chosen one. Something has shifted, and you felt it before you even understood it. A quiet turning, a sacred interruption, as if heaven itself pressed pause on everything else, just to get your attention right now. This is not just another message. This is a divine appointment. You did not stumble into this moment. Your spirit was led here. Because what is unfolding in your life has already been written, already been prepared, and now it is being released. Anointed one, for too long you have carried the weight of uncertainty, wondering how things would come together, how provision would arrive, how the pressure would lift. But hear this clearly: God is not watching from a distance. He is actively funding your life. Not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, and purposefully. There is a shift happening in your source. You are being moved from striving into provision, from anxiety into alignment. As it is written in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19, your needs are not met by your effort, but by His riches in glory. Doors that resisted you are now responding. Delays are turning into divine timing. What once felt blocked is beginning to flow. If this resonates, subscribe and stay connected, because not every message is random, some are meant. And what comes next will reveal why this shift has already begun inside you. There is something you must understand before you can fully receive what is unfolding. And it is this: the first sign that God is funding your life is not always found in your wallet, your paycheck, or the numbers on a screen. It begins in the place nobody sees first. It begins in the way pressure starts losing its grip on you. Chosen one. For a long time you have been living as if every day required you to hold the entire structure together by yourself. You learned how to stay calm while your thoughts raced. You learned how to smile while your chest carried weight. You learned how to keep moving even when your spirit was tired. That survival posture made you strong, but it also made you believe that if you ever stopped pushing, everything would fall apart. Now the Lord is confronting that belief, not to shame you, but to free you. Anointed one. Some of you know exactly what this feels like. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already calculating. What is due? What is late? What might happen? What could go wrong? Who needs something from you? What must be fixed before the day gets away from you? For some, it is the banking app. For others, it is the unopened email, the missed call, the bill on the counter, the conversation you know is coming. You have not merely been dealing with money. You have been dealing with the atmosphere around money, the tension, the dread, the inner storm that formed whenever provision felt uncertain. And yet the title of this word is not shallow, and it is not symbolic. God is funding your life now. That means your source is being corrected. It means your soul is being taught that provision does not begin with panic. It begins with alignment. I say this carefully because many people can talk about provision while still being inwardly ruled by fear. But what the Lord is doing in you is deeper than motivation. He is reordering your inner world. He is pulling you out of a wilderness mindset where every step felt like scarcity and into the beginning of stewardship where peace becomes part of the supply. That is why some of you have felt a strange stillness lately, even before circumstances fully changed. You thought it was temporary. You wondered if you were just numb. No, chosen one. What you have been sensing is the first mercy of divine intervention. Peace is arriving ahead of proof. And that matters more than you know, because if money comes before peace, then money becomes another burden to protect. But when peace comes first, money becomes a tool in the hand of purpose. There is a reason Scripture says in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still." Stillness is not passivity. Stillness is the refusal to let fear become your counselor. Stillness is when urgency knocks, but you do not give it the final word. Stillness is when the mind wants to spiral, but the Spirit says, "No, I will not build my future out of panic." This is the shift. The Lord is not only preparing to release provision around you, He is breaking the covenant you made with worry. Because somewhere in the strain of the last season, many of you unconsciously agreed that stress was necessary, that anxiety was responsibility, that if you were not worrying, then you were not being serious. But worry has never paid a bill. Fear has never opened a right door. Panic has never created lasting provision. They only made noise around your assignment. And this is where the message becomes personal, because heaven has seen the hidden version of your faithfulness, the version that kept showing up when nobody applauded, the version that kept choosing integrity when compromise looked faster, the version that kept carrying responsibilities while quietly asking God how much longer this stretch would last. You were not ignored in those moments. Not one prayer disappeared. Not one tear was wasted. The hidden nights, the silent disappointments, the opportunities that collapsed the plans that did not come together the way you hoped, none of it was meaningless. Some things were delayed because your foundation needed to be stronger than your desire. Some doors stayed shut because you were asking for provision while still surrounded by patterns that would have leaked it. Some relationships were exposed because God will not fund a future that is tied to people committed to your depletion. You who have been waiting need to hear this. Clearly, being overextended was never your calling. Constant survival was never your identity. You were not created to spend your whole life reacting to pressure. You were created to carry weight with grace, to move with clarity, to build from peace. That is why what is breaking right now is not merely lack, it is lack thinking. It is the belief that everything good must arrive through exhaustion. It is the lie that says if it comes easily, it cannot be from God. But the Father you serve is not glorified by your burnout. He is glorified when your life reflects His order. Sometimes the first miracle is not a sudden deposit. Sometimes it is a quiet inner reset where your nervous system no longer bows to fear every time money is mentioned. That kind of healing is holy. And here is the part many do not recognize until later, when God starts funding a life. He often begins by removing the frantic energy that used to govern every decision. You begin to notice that not every open door needs a yes. Not every need around you is your assignment. Not every delay is denial. Your spirit becomes less available to chaos. Your discernment sharpens. You stop mistaking pressure for purpose, and once that happens, the whole landscape begins to change. Because divine provision does not merely add resources, it rearranges direction. That is where we are going next, because the moment your inner world stops living under siege, the signs outside of you begin to look different too. And what starts happening around you will confirm that this funding is not theoretical. It is already in motion. Once that siege begins to lift inside you, something else becomes unmistakable, and it is often quieter than people expect. Unchosen one. Divine provision rarely enters a life with noise first. It enters with order. What begins to change is not always dramatic at the start, but it is precise. You may notice that things which used to drag out begin resolving with unusual calm. A conversation goes better than expected. A problem that once would have spiraled suddenly closes without stealing your whole week. A delay that frustrated you at first later reveals itself as protection. A wrong option falls apart before you can commit to it. An unexpected idea comes with peace attached instead of pressure. These are not random conveniences. These are signs that your life is being managed by a wisdom greater than your own vigilance. When God becomes the source, timing itself begins to testify. Anointed one, Many of you were trained by hardship to think provision had to feel intense in order to be real. You came to expect the breakthrough to be loud because the struggle was loud. You thought the answer would have to arrive with fireworks because the burden had been so heavy. But heaven often works in a different rhythm. What is holy is not always theatrical. Sometimes it is a clean opening where there used to be friction. Sometimes it is a right connection with no manipulation in it. Sometimes it is a reduction in confusion. Sometimes it is the grace to see clearly what once felt tangled. You begin to look at your recent days and realize that certain things are no longer taking the same amount of effort to hold together. That is not your imagination. That is alignment. Divine funding arranges before it announces. It prepares a path before it reveals the full outcome. This is why some of you have noticed that your tolerance for chaos is dropping. Spaces that once felt normal now feel noisy. Conversations built on complaint, panic, gossip, or constant lack begin to wear on your spirit faster than before. The old environment is no longer a fit for the life God is stabilizing in you. Chosen one, do not ignore this. Provision flows best where peace is honored. If your spirit has been pulling back from certain patterns, that is not you becoming cold. That is discernment maturing. There are places where you learn to survive, but survival is not the same as stewardship. God will not keep expanding what your current environment is designed to drain. This is why pruning often accompanies provision. Something has to be cleared so something stronger can remain. And pruning is not always dramatic either. Sometimes it looks like invitations slowing down. Sometimes it looks like being less available for dynamics that once consumed your energy. Sometimes it looks like not explaining yourself every time you choose rest over overextension. Some people were comfortable with the version of you that overgave, undercharged, overexplained, and constantly stretched yourself to keep everyone else settled. But anointed one, not everyone who benefited from your struggle is assigned to benefit from your overflow. That truth may sting, but it is liberating. The Lord is not only providing for you, He is teaching you how to stop leaking what He is releasing. And one of the first signs that your life is being funded differently is that your boundaries begin to strengthen without guilt swallowing you whole. There is also a strategic shift taking place in the way solutions come to you. When fear was in charge, every thought had to be rushed, every decision had to be made. Under internal pressure, every opportunity had to be chased before it disappeared. But now, ideas begin arriving with a different weight. Not frantic, not desperate, not loud, but clear. You may find yourself seeing pathways where you once only saw walls. You may notice that wisdom is showing up before the resource, not after. That is how God builds. He often sends strategy before supply so that supply arrives with direction. Too many people ask for abundance while still carrying the mindset that would misuse it. But the Father is too intentional to hand weight to someone whose inner life is still collapsing under urgency. So He teaches first, He steadies first, He aligns first. Then what comes can remain. I have seen this pattern in real life more times than I can count. A person prays for breakthrough, but the first thing that happens is not a check in the mail. The first thing that happens is they stop making fear-based decisions. They stop saying yes just because they are afraid another door will not come. They stop buying relief instead of making aligned choices. They stop tying their worth to being needed by everyone around them. Then, suddenly, the external world begins to respond to that inner order. Opportunities clean up. Timing improves. Favor becomes recognizable. The path no longer feels cursed. It feels covered. Chosen one that is not coincidence. That is what happens when heaven backs a life from the inside out. You may even be seeing this in practical ways already. A refund shows up at the right time. A bill gets resolved with less drama than expected. Someone opens a conversation you did not force. A delay keeps you from stepping into an obligation that would have cost you more than money. A clean idea lands in your mind, and for the first time in a long time, it does not feel heavy to think about the future. These moments matter. Do not dismiss them because they seem small. The kingdom often moves through what the anxious mind overlooks. What looks ordinary to fear can be miraculous to discernment. A shifted pattern is a sign. A cleaner yes is a sign. A peaceful no is a sign. A lighter chest is a sign. The path being cleared without your usual striving is a sign. And here is something else the Lord wants you to understand. Divine provision does not remove effort, but it removes futility. You may still work, but your work begins producing cleaner fruit. You may still plan, but the plans require fewer revisions because they are no longer being built under pressure. You may still face resistance, but it does not unravel you emotionally the way it once did. That difference is profound. It means you are no longer building from panic. You are building from center. 1. The wealth shift in your life is not merely financial. It is emotional, relational, energetic, and spiritual. You are being resourced with timing, discernment, clarity, and steadiness. Money follows that order. It always has. When the inner atmosphere changes, the outer systems start responding to it. So pay attention to what is becoming lighter and what is becoming louder. Pay attention to what restores you and what drains you. Pay attention to what feels clean and what feels costly, even before you commit. This is not overthinking. This is wisdom awakening. And the more you honor that wisdom, the more obvious it becomes that what is happening now is not just about God meeting needs. It is about God teaching you how to remain positioned when provision increases, because the greatest threat to a funded life is no longer only lack. It is misalignment. Misalignment does not always announce itself loudly, and that is why this moment matters more than you realize. Chosen one, as provision, begins to move toward you. The real test is no longer whether you can survive without it, but whether you can remain steady when it arrives. Because whatever God funds, He also entrusts. And whatever is entrusted must be carried with clarity, not urgency. This is why you are being invited into a different kind of discipline now, not the kind built on pressure, not the kind that exhausts you, but the kind rooted in discernment. The ability to pause when everything in your past would have rushed, the ability to listen when fear is trying to speak first, the ability to recognize that not every opportunity is assignment and not every open door is alignment. Anointed one, there were patterns formed in your life during seasons of lack that once protected you, but now they are being exposed because they no longer serve you. The habit of saying yes too quickly because you feared nothing else would come. The tendency to overextend yourself, to feel secure. The instinct to accept what is offered even when it costs your peace. These were not failures, they were survival responses. But survival is not the language of provision. And if those patterns remain unchecked, they will quietly sabotage what God is trying to build through you. This is why you may have noticed something new happening lately. A pause, a moment between the offer and your response. A quiet hesitation that is not fear, but awareness. That pause is sacred. It is where wisdom lives. There is a difference between obedience and impulse, and many people confuse the two. Obedience flows from alignment. It carries peace even when it stretches you. Impulse comes from fear. It carries urgency even when it looks like opportunity. Chosen one. In this season, you are being trained to recognize that difference without over-analyzing it. When something is aligned, it will not demand that you betray your peace in order to say yes. When something is misaligned, it will often come wrapped in urgency, pushing you to decide before you have clarity. That pressure is not from God. The Lord does not rush you into confusion. He leads you into clarity. And this is where many of you are experiencing a quiet, internal shift that is easy to overlook. You are becoming more sensitive to what your body is telling you. You may feel your chest tighten when something is off. You may feel a sense of heaviness when a decision is not aligned. You may notice a strange calm when something is right, even if it stretches you. That is not weakness. That is information. Your nervous system is no longer being ignored. It is becoming a partner in discernment. For years, some of you had to override those signals just to keep going. But now that you are no longer in survival mode, your body is being allowed to speak again. And it is telling the truth. Chosen one, another layer of this shift is that you are being released from the need to prove yourself. When provision begins to increase, there is often a subtle temptation to justify it, to explain your worth, to defend your decisions, to make sure others understand why things are changing in your life. But heaven does not fund explanations. It funds obedience. You do not need to perform for acceptance in a season that was assigned by God. Some people will misunderstand your boundaries. They will feel your distance. They will interpret your clarity as change in a way that makes them uncomfortable. Let them. You are not withdrawing. You are consolidating. You are learning how to gather your energy so it can be invested where it produces life instead of being scattered where it disappears. There will also be moments where fear tries to return, not as panic, but disguised as responsibility. It will sound reasonable. It will ask questions that feel practical. What if this does not last? What if it stops? What if you make the wrong move and lose everything? These thoughts are familiar, but they are not truth. They are echoes of a season where you believed you were unsupported. And this is where you must anchor yourself again. As it is written in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Stillness here means you refuse to rehearse disaster. You refuse to let imagined futures steal the peace that has already been given to you. You refuse to build decisions out of fear instead of faith. Anointed one. There is also a rhythm being restored in your life, and it is essential. There are times to build and times to rest, times to move and times to pause. Provision flows best where rhythm is honored. But when you have lived in survival mode for a long time, rest can feel uncomfortable. You may feel guilty when you slow down. You may feel like you're falling behind when you choose not to overextend yourself. But rest is not a reward for finishing everything. It is a declaration that you trust your source. When you rest, you are not neglecting responsibility. You are aligning with a higher order. Because exhaustion distorts discernment and burnout blocks clarity. And God will not build something sustainable through a version of you that is constantly depleted. So this is how you remain in flow. You choose clarity over urgency. You choose peace over pressure. You choose alignment over approval. And as you do, something powerful begins to happen. Provision meets you without force. Doors open without manipulation. Opportunities come without draining you. The weight begins to feel different. Not lighter because nothing is required, but lighter because you are no longer carrying it alone. And this is only the beginning, because as your internal posture stabilizes, your relationship with provision itself is about to be transformed in a way that will determine how far this season can truly go. The deeper this shift settles within you, the more it begins to touch something that many people avoid confronting, and that is your relationship with money itself. Chosen one, divine provision is not only about what comes into your life. It is about what is healed within you as it arrives. Because money is never just numbers. It carries memory. It carries emotion. It carries agreements that were formed during seasons when you had to fight to stay afloat. Some of you learned to fear it, to chase it, to guard it tightly, or to tie your sense of safety directly to it. And even if you never said it out loud somewhere along the way, there was an internal agreement that money decides whether you can breathe, whether you can rest, whether you can feel secure. That agreement is what God is breaking now. Anointed one, you are not being taught to reject money, and you are not being taught to idolize it. You are being taught to see it correctly. As a tool, not a verdict. As a resource, not a ruler. As something that flows through your life, not something that defines your worth. When this shift begins, something remarkable happens. The emotional charge around money starts to weaken. You no longer feel the same tension when you think about it. You no longer react to it with the same fear or urgency. It becomes quieter in your mind. And that quiet is not indifference. It is authority. Because when something no longer controls your emotions, it can finally be used with clarity. This is why some of you have already noticed changes in the way you make decisions. You are no longer spending from a place of relief, trying to soothe stress with quick fixes. You are no longer saving from a place of fear, holding tightly as if everything could disappear at any moment. Instead, you are beginning to ask different questions. Does this align with the life I am building? Does this bring peace? Or does it create pressure? Does this support my purpose or distract from it? These are not restrictive questions. They are mature ones. They signal that you are no longer reacting. You are stewarding. Chosen one. Generosity is also being refined in you, and this is important. In past seasons, some of you gave from urgency. You gave to avoid conflict. You gave to feel safe. You gave because you feared what might happen if you did not. But that kind of giving leads to depletion, not multiplication. And God does not fund burnout. He funds stewardship. In this new season, your giving becomes clean, intentional, aligned. You give because it is right, not because you are afraid. You give from overflow, not from pressure. And you also begin to recognize that you are not called to carry everyone's burden at the cost of your own stability. There is a boundary being restored in your life, and it is not selfish. It is wisdom. You are learning that compassion without discernment leads to exhaustion. You are learning that helping someone does not mean becoming responsible for their choices. You are learning that saying no to what is misaligned does not shut down provision. In fact, it often increases it, because every place where you stop leaking energy becomes a place where strength is restored. And every place where strength is restored becomes a place where provision can remain. Anointed. 1. There may be moments in this process where increase feels uncomfortable, when something resolves faster than expected, when an opportunity opens without the struggle you are used to, when you receive more than you planned for. In those moments, there may be a subtle urge to question it, to look for the catch, to assume something must be wrong because it feels too easy compared to what you have known. But hear this clearly. Ease is not the enemy. Ease is not a sign that something is off. Sometimes ease is simply the result of alignment finally taking the place of resistance. Sometimes it means you have stopped fighting the support that was already available to you. And as this healing continues, your capacity begins to expand in ways that are not immediately visible but deeply significant. You begin to lead differently. You begin to build differently. You begin to think differently about what is possible. Fear no longer dictates your decisions. Vision does, and vision has a way of attracting provision without chasing it. Because when your life is aligned with purpose, resources are drawn to what is being built through you, not because of effort alone, but because of alignment with something greater than yourself. Chosen. 1. This is how heaven funds a life from the inside out. It stabilizes your emotions before it increases your resources. It clarifies your identity before it expands your influence. It heals your relationship with provision before it multiplies what flows through your hands. And as this process unfolds, something else begins to rise within you. A quiet authority, a confidence that does not come from control, but from knowing you are supported. And that authority will begin to shape not only how you handle what comes to you, but how others begin to respond to you as well. What begins to rise from that healing is something many people spend years trying to force, but in your case, it is forming naturally. Chosen. 1. Your authority is being restored. Not loud, not performative, not something you have to announce, but something that settles into you quietly and then starts to shape everything around you. You are no longer asking for permission to trust yourself. You are no longer second-guessing every decision, as if one wrong move could undo everything. That fear belonged to a season where everything felt fragile, where one unexpected expense or one missed opportunity could shake your entire foundation. But what God is establishing now is not built on that kind of instability. It is being rooted in something deeper, something that does not collapse when pressure appears. Anointed One, you may have already noticed it. You speak less, but when you speak, there is weight in it. You do not feel the same need to explain your choices to people who are not aligned with your path. You are less reactive to opinions that once would have pulled you into doubt. This is not indifference. It is clarity. It is what happens when your decisions are no longer being filtered through fear. Instead of scanning for what could go wrong, you are beginning to sense what is right. That shift is subtle, but it is powerful. Because when your inner world becomes steady, your outer world starts responding differently. People may begin to treat you differently, and not because you demanded anything from them. It is because peace carries authority. There is something about a person who is no longer leaking anxiety into every interaction. It changes the atmosphere around them. Conversations become clearer. Boundaries are respected more naturally. Opportunities come with less resistance. Not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you are no longer contributing fear to every situation. You are holding your ground without tension, and that is rare. Chosen One. This is where leadership begins to emerge, even if you did not set out to lead. Not the kind of leadership that forces influence or tries to control outcomes, but the kind that stabilizes environments. You may notice people coming to you for clarity, for perspective, for calm, in moments where they feel overwhelmed. They may not even understand why they are drawn to you, but what they are sensing is the shift that has taken place inside you. You are no longer reacting from chaos. You are responding from alignment, and that difference becomes visible even without words. This is also where responsibility begins to feel different. You are still carrying weight, but it no longer crushes you. You are still making decisions, but they no longer drain you the same way. You are still building something, but it does not feel like you are fighting every step of the way. That is because authority is not about removing responsibility. It is about carrying it without anxiety. and that is what God is teaching you now. How to hold what is given to you without letting it distort your peace. How to lead without losing yourself. How to build without burning out. Anointed One. There is a reason this matters so much, because heaven does not fund panic. It funds stewardship. And stewardship requires stability. It requires the ability to remain clear, even when pressure tries to rise. It requires the discipline to stay aligned, even when opportunities multiply. Because as provision increases, so does the potential for distraction. More options, more voices, more demands. And if your foundation is not steady, those things can pull you out of alignment faster than lack ever did. That is why this authority is being formed before visibility expands. Before everything becomes obvious to others, it is being established within you. You are learning to trust your discernment. You are learning to move without needing constant confirmation from outside voices. You are learning to sit in stillness without assuming something is wrong. These are not small shifts. They are the infrastructure of a life that can carry more without breaking under it. And as this continues, something else begins to change, not just within you, but around you. The environment starts adjusting. What once felt normal begins to feel out of place. Patterns that once worked begin to lose their effectiveness. Relationships begin to shift, not always dramatically, but noticeably. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that alignment is deepening. Because when a life is being funded by heaven, everything connected to that life begins to come into order, even if that process feels uncomfortable at times. As that alignment deepens, you begin to notice that your environment can no longer remain the same, and this is where many people feel the shift most tangibly. Chosen One. When divine funding settles into a life, it does not only change what you receive, it changes what can remain around you. Certain rhythms begin to feel heavy. Patterns that once felt necessary now feel draining. You may find that habits you relied on to cope no longer bring the same comfort. Late nights driven by anxiety start to feel exhausting instead of productive. Constant multitasking begins to feel like noise instead of efficiency. Conversations built around fear, complaint, or comparison begin to feel misaligned with who you are becoming. This is not loss. This is refinement. Anointed One, you are outgrowing structures that were built for survival, not for stewardship. And that process requires release. Not rejection, not bitterness, but a quiet willingness to let go of what no longer fits. Some of you are feeling this in your relationships. Not every shift means separation, but many will require renegotiation. Boundaries that were once blurred now need to be clarified. Expectations that were once unspoken now need to be redefined. When your life is no longer fueled by lack, you cannot bond in the same way over fear, and that can feel unfamiliar at first. Some people will adjust with you, others will not. But this is where wisdom must lead, not guilt. You are not leaving people behind. You are moving into alignment with what you are called to carry, and not everyone is assigned to walk every stage with you. This does not make you distant, it makes you intentional. There is a difference, because when provision increases, your responsibility is not just to receive it, but to protect its flow. And protection often looks like clarity. Clarity about where your time goes, clarity about where your energy is invested, clarity about what conversations you allow to shape your mindset. Chosen One, your physical space may also begin to reflect this shift. You may feel drawn to simplify, to clear, to create room. Clutter that you once ignored may now feel loud. Disorganization may begin to feel heavier than before. This is not about perfection, it is about preparation, because provision flows best where there is space to receive it. God does not pour overflow into chaos. He pours into environments that can hold what is being released. When you feel the urge to create order, do not dismiss it. That impulse is part of how heaven prepares containers for what is coming. Anointed one, there is also an internal shedding happening at the same time. Old thought patterns, old emotional responses, old identities that were formed in seasons of pressure are beginning to fall away. You're no longer the person who must react to everything. You're no longer the person who must carry every outcome alone. You're no longer defined by the version of you that struggled to stay afloat. That identity served its purpose, but it cannot lead you where you are going. Elevation always requires shedding, not because you are becoming better than others, but because you are becoming more aligned with yourself. And this is where many people hesitate, because release can feel uncomfortable even when it is necessary. There is a familiarity in old patterns, even if they were draining. There is a sense of control in habits that once helped you cope. But what feels familiar is not always what is aligned. And if you try to hold on to everything while stepping into something new, the weight will become unsustainable. Chosen one. You do not have to force this process. You simply have to stop resisting it. Let what is falling away fall. Let what feels heavy be acknowledged. Let what no longer fits be released with gratitude instead of fear. There is also a deeper awareness forming in you about what truly matters. You begin to see that not everything deserves your attention. Not everything requires your response. Not everything needs to be carried. This awareness is not detachment, it is clarity. And clarity is one of the most valuable forms of provision you can receive, because when you know what matters, you stop wasting energy on what does not. And when you stop wasting energy, you create capacity. And capacity is what allows provision to remain without overwhelming you. Chosen one. As this refinement continues, something stabilizes in a way that feels almost unfamiliar at first. Life begins to feel less reactive, less chaotic, more ordered. Not because there are no challenges, but because those challenges no longer dictate your internal state. You begin to move with intention instead of urgency. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to build instead of constantly repair. And that shift is what allows provision to become sustainable instead of temporary. Because this is not about a moment. It is about a way of living that can hold what is coming without collapsing under it. And that requires a posture that is steady, not extreme, consistent, not performative, grounded, not reactive. And as this becomes your new normal, there is one final shift that brings everything together, something that ensures what has begun in your life does not fade but continues to grow with stability and purpose. What sustains everything that has been unfolding in your life is not intensity, not emotion, and not constant striving. It is something far more stable, far more grounded, and often overlooked because it doesn't feel dramatic. Chosen one. The posture that carries a divinely funded life is consistency rooted in trust. Not the kind of trust that appears only when things are going well, but the kind that remains steady even when you cannot see the full picture. This is where everything you have been learning begins to settle into a rhythm that no longer depends on external conditions to remain intact. Anointed one. You are not being asked to prove your faith again and again. You are being invited to live it quietly through your daily choices, through the way you respond instead of react, through the way you pause instead of rushing, through the way you honor peace even when urgency tries to return. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means presence. It means you are aware enough to notice when something feels off and willing enough to adjust without panic. It means you're no longer trying to control every outcome, but you're also not neglecting your responsibility. You are partnering, and partnership changes everything. Because when you understand that you are not building alone, you stop carrying the pressure as if everything depends on you. You still show up, you still plan, you still move forward, but the weight feels different. It is no longer driven by fear of what might happen if you fail. It is carried with a quiet assurance that what God has started, He is also sustaining. As it is written in Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." That is not a distant promise. That is a present reality unfolding in your life right now. Chosen one. There will still be moments where fear tries to knock. Anxiety may whisper familiar questions. Doubt may attempt to revisit old patterns. But the difference now is that those voices no longer have authority. They may appear, but they do not lead. You have already stepped into a different foundation, one where peace is not dependent on circumstances, one where clarity is not lost the moment pressure rises, one where your identity is no longer tied to how hard you can push through exhaustion. You are no longer living from survival. You are living from alignment. This alignment shows up in simple ways that carry deep meaning. You make decisions without overcomplicating them. You rest without guilt weighing on your mind. You give without feeling drained afterward. You build without constantly questioning if everything will fall apart. These are not small changes. They are evidence that your life is being sustained differently. And the more you remain present in this rhythm, the more natural it becomes. What once felt unfamiliar becomes your new normal. What once required effort becomes your default way of living. Anointed one, understand this clearly. Divine funding is not a moment that comes and goes. It is a way of living where provision meets purpose consistently, where your inner world remains steady even as your external world expands, where you no longer chase what has already been aligned for you, where you no longer fear losing what was never yours to control in the first place. This is the shift. Not just receiving more, but becoming someone who can carry more without losing peace. Chosen one, stay grounded in this. Stay aware. Stay aligned. You do not need to force what is already in motion. You do not need to rush what is already ordered. What has begun in your life is not sustained by your effort alone. It is sustained by the same source that called you into it. And because of that, it will not collapse under pressure. It will not disappear when circumstances change. It will continue to unfold with precision, with purpose, and with peace. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing anything that is meant for you. Everything is aligning at the right time, in the right way, for the right reason. What you have felt in your spirit is real. What has begun is already active, and what is being built will be completed. Walk forward with clarity. Move with peace. Remain steady in the rhythm that has been given to you. You are supported. You are provided for. And the life that is unfolding before you is not fragile. It is established. Chosen one. As this word settles into your spirit, recognize what has already taken place. This was not just something you heard. This was confirmation. A shift has already begun, and you are standing in a divinely appointed moment where provision is aligning with purpose and peace is overtaking what once felt overwhelming. Anointed one, you were not led here by accident. You were positioned by grace, carried into this moment by intention, and covered by a plan that was set long before you could see it. What is unfolding in your life is not delayed, not denied, but precisely ordered. Even now, things you cannot see are being arranged in your favor. Stay faithful to the quiet instructions. Stay aligned with the peace you feel. Do not rush what God is already establishing. As it is written in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, there is a time for everything, and this is your time of alignment. Let gratitude anchor you. Let expectation guide you. Let peace guard what is being released. If your spirit agrees with this moment, write Amen or 777 in the comments as a sign of alignment, not obligation, but confirmation. And if this message spoke to you, stay connected and subscribe, because not every word is random, some are assigned. Go forward in peace, chosen one. You are covered. You are provided for, and what has begun will be completed.